Record as well. All right, and we are recording as well. Good. Mics will go live. Oh, mics are live.
We are live, yeah.
All right.
It's a minute behind mine.
It is 7 o'clock. I will call the Monday, July 10th, 2023 meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Kevin Jensen,
Here.
Miriam Bavra,
Here.
Bert Richard,
Here.
Nellie Shire,
Here.
Doug Kuchko,
Here.
Diane Kozer,
Here.
Don Kuski,
Here.
Steve Bowman, Bill Henkel.
Here.
And Randy, can you tell us, was a proper notice given for this meeting?
Yes, please be advised that public notice of this meeting as required by sections 19.84 and 65.90 of the Wisconsin statutes has been properly given. Such notice consisted of a notice and agenda to the official newspaper, the Rice Lake Chronotype, to the Eau Claire Leader, and to radio stations WJMC and WAQE indicating the date, time, and place of the meeting. Such notice was given more than 24 hours prior to the meeting.
Thank you. It does appear that proper notice was given for this
All
meeting.
right.
We'll stand for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I've been practicing.
And we have nobody that signed up for appearances, so we will move on to the approval of the regular session meeting minutes from Monday, June 26th. Do I have a motion to approve? Motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes have been approved. The consent agenda, we have our monthly budget and cash reconciliation report, the monthly board bills. We have 4 employment resignations and 8 employment recommendations. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? And the consent agenda has been approved. We'll now get into our report section, and we'll start off with our student academic standards for the 23-24 school year. Marcia?
Good evening. In your packet, you have the proposed standards for 23-24. These are the Wisconsin academic standards for each content area that we teach in our various classes and grade levels at the school. There are no new state standards this year. There are some that are under revision, but no new standards. So these are the same standards that we adopted last year.
Any questions?
I have a couple questions.
Okay.
I was just taking a look at them a little bit today. I didn't have much time because I didn't get that access until I think it was late last night. It's really a lot of material to go through.
Yeah.
But just a couple kind of general things. I was just wondering, how do we know that those Wisconsin standards meet our community's expectations and values? I mean, there's just so much there. Have we ever gone through that and really analyzed?
We do. That's our curriculum revision process where we review the standards, and we generally do that when new standards are adopted by the state. Teachers, as a group, we review the standards, break them down to really look at the meaning of the standards. We choose our priority standards, and we align our curriculum then to those priority standards that we select.
So we don't necessarily apply all of those standards.
We look at them as far as, so those that we absolutely, every kid needs to master the standard. Those are our priority standards. Others are, we're going to cover those. We may not assess, but we'll cover them. And some are kind of like good to know standards that, yep, this helps support what we're learning, but we may not spend a lot of time on.
Okay, well, I was just wondering, there's a lot of material there and it's asking a lot if we did follow all of them. And I was curious to know, how do our teachers incorporate the standards into their curriculum? Do the curriculum pieces that we have already kind of have them embedded in there so they're covering those standards? Or do they have to go and take their curriculum and then fit the standards to meet it?
So
or-
we write our curriculum, align our curriculum to the standards, to support the standards based on that process of choosing our, prioritizing the standards and then designing our units of instruction in a way that we group the standards together according to topic or in a way that makes sense with the progression. And then we find the resources, then we adopt resources to support the curriculum that we've written as a staff together collaboratively.
Well, when I look at those standards, sometimes as you get lower in the list, like let's say we're looking at history, and they start out with standard 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. As you get lower, like down to 4, it seems like it gets away from the subject matter more. And like I was noticing under history, under 2A and 2C, it seems like those standards are more social behavior type standards instead of talking about history. And so when we get to something like that, do we kind of set those aside and we don't focus on those? Because I just don't know how you'd have enough time to teach the facts of history and then get down in there and try to apply those social behavior standards as well.
Generally, the standard itself is kind of the big concept or the big topic, and then there's indicators underneath that support the standard itself. So sometimes the indicators may be examples of ways that we might incorporate that standard within our curriculum. I'd have to look specifically at your particular question, but the subtopics or sometimes those are what we call the indicators of the standard that just tell a little bit more about the standard. Tends to be more overarching, bigger concept, where the indicators are kind of the smaller points underneath each standard.
Okay. Are we as a board kind of expected to look at all those standards and say that we feel comfortable with them? Or, I mean, it's overwhelming. It's like pages and pages and pages.
I don't think as a board you are. I think that's
Supposed to do
the work
that?
of the staff to
Yeah.
know their
Well, it's
subject
not
and
like
to
a
know their
book of
content
laws.
area.
Like, we don't have to do all, those are recommendations by the state.
Right. We know that that's what our students will be assessed on the state assessments. And we know that focusing on the standards and the learning targets that we develop within them will help our students be successful.
Well, I wouldn't mind having a couple extra weeks just so I could look over them a little more because, I mean, you look over the ag and career, the first one is 180 pages, a lot of detail. And even just to scan through that takes a fair amount of time. If it wouldn't hold us up at all, I wouldn't mind having one more session just to look at that before we approve it.
So the goal would be to edit the standards?
No.
Or just to look over
Just
them?
have more time to look them over.
Okay.
Is there a time?
We're required to adopt. I don't know the date.
I can't remember the date off the top of my head. I know it's typically it's in the summer. I don't know
Yeah.
if it's July or I don't know if it'd be that big of a deal if we went to the first meeting in August. I don't
Is that an internal requirement? The DPI
know. There's
doesn't
a
require
supposed
State
to be a
requirement
DPI
that each
requirement.
district's
Mhm.
adopts
As
the
standards.
standard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Adopts
if we
their standard.
did it the first week in August or the first meeting in August, I don't know that.
So we can't do it in the middle of July?
Yeah, that one we, during the
We wouldn't-
retreat, typically
we wouldn't be
don't
able to do that during the
any
retreat.
action items.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, I don't want to cause a problem, but if we could take more time, I know I would appreciate having more time to look through them.
Yeah.
Would you?
I can't answer that question. I would give you more time if it doesn't.
If it's not going to hold us up,
Right.
first meeting in
Yeah.
August would be a problem?
I think so. I can find out the date. I think it's just required that annually, if I'm remembering the statute correctly, annually a district will adopt.
Right.
Their chosen.
You want
the
to put that
standards
in a
that they-
form of a motion to table until our first
Yeah,
meeting in August?
I'd like to make a motion that we table these for approval until the first meeting in August, please.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I'd second that.
Any other discussion?
So if we didn't approve them, then what? I mean, I guess I'm just kind of confused because it's something that the DPI sets up and our students are tested according to it. I mean, I guess,
You would have to look at some alternate standards at some point.
Yeah, I mean, so like I'm confused because it says adopting these standards is voluntary and districts use them as guidelines. So,
yes, we'd
What does
have
that
to
mean?
use alternate standards.
We'd
We
have
have
to
to adopt
develop
a
our
set of
own?
standards
okay,
is the statute. And so, yep, the state standards are
okay.
what have been developed and what our curriculum is aligned to and what we know students will be assessed on the state assessments.
Well, where I'm coming at it from is I just would like to be able to look them over so that when I vote on it, I don't expect I'll vote against it, but I just want more time to know more about it. So I'm just not rubber stamping it. I mean, they could bring anybody in from the street to sit in my seat, in my seat if that's all they're supposed to do, but I would just like to take more time to go over it.
Any further discussion?
You know, just an opinion, I think the curriculum committee does a good job, and I think that's where it should go, or if it hasn't. I guess I don't see moving ahead to the next meeting.
It is discussed at curriculum level as each curriculum item is brought up where we're looking at doing new curriculum for the district, but it's not as a whole, like we are seeing it tonight, it is not brought to the committee as a whole.
And Phil doesn't have a chance to sit on the curriculum committee, so I would honor his time and standards.
And there's no obligation for you to take time to look it over. It just gives the opportunity.
Mhm.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, I'd entertain, the motion is first on the table. All in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed? All right,
Agree.
we have one
One
nay. It is tabled. Can you, while we're going through the rest of this, just check and make sure we're good? Thank you. All right, next we have the 23-24 Rice Lake Area School District preliminary budget. Yes, Victor, your name is on there, so you have to come up and speak.
Great. Make it entertaining.
And with it, I am going to pull up
Oh, boy.
Victor had, no, it's, where'd it go?
Right,
Victor
so in your
has-
packet, page 55, well, that was on the PDF or whatever.
Yeah,
So that's the note. So,
here's an updated version.
so the one in your packet was based on a zero increase in the revenue limit. This one here is what the state passed or governor signed last week. So that is the difference between this one and the one in your packet. So this is our estimated budget. We're still finalizing some of the hirings. I think there's still a few positions open. We haven't set compensation yet for the salary staff. Some revenues you won't know till the fall, so they're estimated. So as I said, the one in your packet was done with a zero increase in the per student revenue limit. This one is with the 325. So in your packet, the net is the deficit. So in your packet, the deficit was 2.1 million. Here's 1.5 million because of the 600,000 difference on the revenue limit. So kind of comparing to 22, 23, the revenues are down about 70,000. So the state did increase the per student revenue limit, but the way we are in the formula with our declining enrollment, as you come down, they buffer you, but once you plateau, you lose your declining enrollment exemption. So basically your revenues is they got 2 3-year averages and they compare them. If the most current one is going down, they give you declining enrollment exemptions and they buffer you. Now we've hit the plateau. So we're losing like $540,000 next year because we're plateauing on our declining enrollment. Let's see here. Our budget expenses are up about 1.4 million from 23 to 24. I'll point that out. So we got the deficit for next year. We can buffer next year by using fund balance, try to keep our non-payroll costs down as much as we can, but going to 24, 25, we're going to have to somehow find a way to eliminate that deficit. So we're going to get $325 per student in 24, 25 will generate about $700,000. This year, our raises are about 1.3 million. So it's possible in 24, 25, our per student increase won't cover our increases for 24, 25 either. So we may have to cover this deficit plus a deficit for 24, 25. So we're going to start working July here to make a plan going forward. How we're going to reduce the deficit, either referendum, cuts, both. We'll bring you a plan and you'll get to decide, I guess, how we go forward. So.
And with that, I do want to point out, Victor talked about a $540,000 reduction for next year. That, as we looked at that again today, that much won't happen again. The most we would see in subsequent years is like, I think it was $80,000.
Yeah, about 82,000.
That's all that's left, so to speak, in that piece of it. So that's a one-time significant reduction.
So we have work to do, I guess, how to put it. So take any questions that you have.
What did our per pupil, what did we get from the state before? I mean, like the.
So last 2 years was zero. They said using rest of
Increase.
their money to cover it. So we got last 2 years was zero. We'll get 325 next year, 325 the 24, 25. So we were 11,600 some. I think it was 610 for last year. This next year will be 11,935, and then
That's the increase.
yep,
Okay.
yep.
So we're not keeping up with inflation.
Hell, no.
Is there a mandated percentage that you have to have in the fund balance?
There's no rule.
There's no rule.
If you get below a certain point, you got to short-term borrow.
Okay.
So, yeah, we're fine that way.
All right.
It won't put us into that low of fund balance for
That we
after
have to
next
do
year.
short
Yeah,
term.
right,
Okay.
exactly. But to keep doing that, yes, we would.
No, I get it. So we
I don't
have a
think-
little,
Yeah,
I don't think we've had to short-term borrow for 6 years. I don't think, if I remember right. Sounds. And we won't for next year either, but
no, right.
So Victor, can you summarize again why we've gone from balance to a 1.5 million in the red? Is it
So-
all the catch-up pay, or is it mostly the
for-
catch-up pay?
So for 22, 23, this current year, we're either going to break even or lose money. I mean, that's where we're at. So basically, we're going to have a 70,000 decrease in our revenue for next year. And then we had, salary increases are about 1.3 million or more. And plus our bus contract went up, all that kind of stuff. So that's why we're in the red.
Is any of the problem the federal funds we got during COVID that started programs for us to continue now? Is that
No,
any of the
no.
problem?
Basically, we're all used for interventionist and some curriculum purchases that'll basically be going away after Esther is gone. So this is
And we still,
technically, I guess we want to say it's in addition to the Esther positions.
right. We do have some, if we have through the end of this year, technically through the September of next year, to
24,
reuse those ESSER funds. This year, we do have some interventionists still funded through the ESSER funds. Our additional substitute staff, those substitute teachers are funded through the remaining ESSER funds as well. But those will be, anything left will be completely used up by the end of this year.
Right. So from that standpoint, compared to other schools, we are in a better position because they use them for ongoing teacher salaries. So
Another question on page of the budget that has the grand totals at the bottom, Fund 10.
Yeah.
State equalization aid varied by $4.5 million.
So it
Can you
did vary.
explain that?
We haven't we haven't got receipts all done for June. That's why, that's for the
Okay.
current year. So
Okay.
it came, but it hasn't been put in the books yet. That's why.
Figured it was something like that.
Yeah.
And the only other comment I'd like to make is I think we should all think of ways that we could improve the quality of the district so that we can make it a magnet district for kids. Because if we could be a plus 30 in the open district transfers, I mean, that's part of it. That's $500,000 right there. So it's really important that we do that and that
Yeah,
it
it's-
be real and that we advertise it.
Yeah, it does have a direct effect on the budget.
Yeah.
Right now, do we have more students coming in or leaving?
I'm going to guess we've been trending a little bit negative. So at one time we were severely negative. I think last year we were about -20, give or take, -15, -20.
Do we have any idea why we're trending negative? Because I mean, I hear a lot of positive things about the district.
We don't directly survey people when they apply for open enrollment either way. They have to list a reason. Sometimes I'm going to say, and I can dig up the data, at the high school level, I'm going to say we trend slightly positive. At the elementary level, yeah, we'll have minus a couple here, a couple there in each grade level. Sometimes it's, parents work in a different district, or this has been a lot. Sometimes someone will maybe move from a neighboring town, but they've always gone to school in that town, so they'll open enroll back. I think and I've talked about this with other district administrators the last 2 years, a lot of open enrollment to online options. And I can drill down and get the actual numbers for you, but I can speak anecdotally. We've had a lot of that as well, enrollment to online options, like say iForward in Grantsburg or other Cave in Cameron or something like that.
Or the Waukesha one.
Yes. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
Has that mainly happened since the COVID situation? More people supported it
Yeah.
and liked it? And
And it was it's kind of ironic. I can't say right now, but I know prior to COVID, I think there were 55 virtual charter schools in the state of Wisconsin. Ironically, 5 or 6 were right around here. Barron has A-Law, Cameron has Cave, Turtle Lake has one, Cumberland has one, Birchwood has one. I think Chautauqua Weyerhaeuser has one. And so not a lot of them in the state, but several of them right around here. I don't know what the numbers are now. For instance, I know Altoona has adopted a virtual charter school, but I don't know. I'll look that up. It would be interesting to know.
Why do we not have one? Is it just not beneficial to the district?
Yeah, it presents a whole other context of issues, and we kind of had one at one time. Our Connections program was more targeted to our homeschool population, but it just hasn't been something we've investigated recently.
I hear people talking about that we have a large assortment of AP classes, and that's a draw to bring people in. So
Yeah.
that's something.
Yeah, it is. And our offerings at the high school level, for a school our size, we have a lot of offerings. And for a high school of 700, our number of AP and other academic offerings, and then also even athletically, compared to all of the sports the WIAA offers. The only ones we don't offer are boys tennis, boys volleyball, and now lacrosse. We haven't gone down that road, but other than that, we offer everything. So,
Any other questions? All right, this is an action item to approve the preliminary budget. Do I have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries. It's been approved. Next, we have a possible revision for the school calendar moving September 29th in-service day to October 2nd because of homecoming.
Yes, so you've got information in your packet there, and with that, once homecoming was set and realized that fell on an in-service day, and we've done this before, we've moved it before, makes for a very interesting day, and so high school administrators recognize this and forwarded this information on. We did send it to all of the calendar committee members and say, hey, did anybody have any questions, concerns about this? There was one minor concern at the elementary, just because we have a lot of in-service days on Mondays. When classes have art, music, FIA, those specials, that impacts that. But said we could probably live with that for the benefit that moving that from a Friday to a Monday because of homecoming would have. So wanted to put that before you as a potential change. We felt overall it'd be better for the district and better for our students.
Any questions? Not, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Randy, I would just like to, going forward, maybe keep that in the back of our mind, that October, that fall
Yeah.
one, just always plan that one for a Monday. So then we don't have to, we can have
Do this.
could have a Monday, Friday switch someplace else where middle or the elementary kids don't have to
You bet.
miss out as much.
You
So
bet. That makes sense.
perfect. And with that, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that change has been approved. All right, next we have the staffing report. We have a amendment coming for that.
Yeah, so with this, and we mentioned in Rice Lake Police Department, Police Chief Steve Rue is here with me this evening. And with that, when we've talked about this previously, talked about it at finance, so I know it's come up in Steve's report to the rest of you. But looking at the consideration for adding another police school liaison officer, and in your packet, so what Steve did was go through and just modify our current agreement and update it to, should this pass tonight and should the Rice Lake City Council pass this, would then be amended and would be signed, and we'd have a new agreement. It would follow the same financial split, would follow the same funding source that you took action at the last meeting to approve for that. This would not impact the budget, as Victor just showed you, would not affect Fund 10 and would be identical to the agreement we have now. And this is one point I'll share with City Council. Yes, it's a school resource officer, police school liaison officer. It's a Rice Lake Police Department employee. We're basically contracting with the police department in our schools, yes, but available for there's a community benefit, there's a school community benefit, and a broader community benefit. When we look at, as Steve and I work through this, at any given time during the day, Monday through Friday, there's 2 police officers on patrol. Other than administration, there's 2 police officers on patrol in all of Rice Lake. If something happens at the school, where a significant presence is needed, those 2 can come to the school to assist our school officers. If something happens, a significant event in the community, school officers go and can go, and Andy has at times responded to things in the community. They're also available. Andy has always been available to attend other institutions such as St. Joe's or Redeemer Lutheran School to be available to all students in the community. And so based on what we see as needs in the community, and even incidents from this past year where with the swatting call and pieces like that, we can't see a reason why adding another officer to the contracted piece, I think that provides a lot of benefits. And so, Steve, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that, but he's mainly here for questions. But
Stephen, in your,
I guess I'll just throw a plug in here. Just thank you. for working with us. Certainly having Andy in the schools and supporting that monetarily allows us to be larger than the department that we are. So we're 17 with Andy, we're 18, which puts us at the kind of the early 1980s, late 1970s timeframe for staffing. But as Randy said, being able to work together and have Andy in the school allows us to have another officer, but certainly fits a need on both ends for our kids, for our staff, for our teachers, and as well as our community. So we've been very, I think the partnership and working together has been great. But I do want to just thank you for allowing it to happen. Is when there are calls for service, we certainly appreciate having Andy come and help us. But on the other end, if there's a need in the school, we don't have a problem sending all of our officers, including myself, if need be. So, and I also want to thank for the crossing guards as well. I know that's not what this topic is, but we do appreciate being able to keep that program going and allow students and staff alike to be able to get to school safely. But that wouldn't be happening if it weren't for your financial support. So as Randy said, tomorrow night we'll be at council I'll be presenting, and Randy will be with me as far as to add another position. So we as a city are looking at doing a needs assessment anyways to evaluate needs in all of the departments. But certainly the conversations that we have had and the needs that we believe we have within the school have prompted this to move quicker than that needs assessment. So therefore it's going to be in front of council tomorrow night. The one thing that's needed on that end, because it is what's considered a budget amendment on our end, it's going to require 6 of the 8 council members to vote in support of it. So it will be on the consideration agenda 5B tomorrow night. So yeah, as Randy said, I'm here for any questions if you have any.
Any questions?
You know, I don't want to get into personnel, but we don't get to review. Obviously, you're handling that part of the whole thing, but on a generality, not a specific individual, are you happy? I mean, with, having an officer up here, or now possibly 2.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it's helpful. We think it's helpful.
Oh, absolutely.
I just want to know from your end.
Yeah, it's been great. And what I do appreciate is the constant feedback and communication that we have is we want to make sure by providing the officer that the school is getting what they expect. And there are times that we need to adjust things. Hey, time in schools, meaning, hey, the officer needs to spend more time, more balanced times in all of the schools. I think we've exhausted that with Andy. Andy's done a great job. Absolutely phenomenal officer. He's just very, very connected, certainly connected with students and staff. But what we discovered, and one of the main needs for this, is we looked at the amount of time that he is in each of the schools. And we certainly looked at this most recent year, about 50% of his time was at the high school. And we know that he is going to go where the needs are at. But if we want to build this as a proactive development and certainly building relationship and building good students, we want to get that proactivity involved in children at a younger age. So yeah, we've been absolutely happy. If there's anything that needs to be adjusted, we've been very good about doing that. And we will certainly do the same as far as where these officers will be and how they will be split. Certainly, we're going to look to Randy's input, and as well as the selection of the officer. So we will hopefully have officers that are interested. I believe we will, but we don't really know that until we post a position. And like we did with Andy's position, it's going to involve members of our department, the school district, as well as the community. And then ultimately, it has to be someone that fits in the school district for the best needs of the schools.
Well, thank you for championing the cause, both of you. I think it's great.
The meeting is tomorrow at 7,
Yes.
Yes.
and then the officer would start on the first of the year?
Hopefully would start September 1. Yeah, that's the rough timeline we have penciled out right now.
I just want to comment that personnel have told me that they're really, really thankful for Officer Andy in the school, and they think this is a great idea to have a second one.
Any other comments? Right, thank you.
Do you need a motion to?
You want to
Yes.
do that now or underneath the report?
Why don't we do that when we get to finance?
Okay.
And we'll let Doug do his report and then we'll come back and do that.
Sounds good.
All right. Yes, we had all members present on Thursday, July 6th at 8:30. We went over our current OPEB position, which sits at, we have $3.56 million in the fund, and we're making a determination as to potentially what kind of a contribution we'll make now for that fund. In addition, we went over the preliminary budget that Victor covered earlier. We also talked about the police liaison officer update and the proposal for the second officer. And then we approved the bills and scheduled our next meeting for Wednesday, August 9th at 8:30.
Any questions from the committee, for the committee? All right, then we'll go back to the position of the second officer, and I would entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? And that motion carries, and thumbs up for moving forward with the second officer.
Yeah, that's great.
All right. Next, Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting. We met on Wednesday, June 28th. We approved the minutes. We went into closed session, talked about the pool project and where we're at after the judge had made his ruling on against the city. And then basically came out, gave Randy and the team the thumbs up to keep moving forward to try and get this figured out and how we can get the pool completed as we planned it from the beginning. And so that's what Randy and the administrators are working on. So that was our Buildings and Grounds Committee meeting from Wednesday, June 28th. Any questions? Okay. Next, we have Policy and Legislative Advocacy Committee meeting update. We met on Tuesday, June 27th, and we approved the minutes. We briefly discussed Phil's update from the meeting just before, the Monday night before our Tuesday meeting that he had presented. And then we went through policy 810, 811, 812, and that long list of policies. We were busy going through a number of them. Some of them are relatively short, as you can see, but we did get through all of those, and that was our first reading. And
We made some longer, right?
yes, we did make some longer. We eliminated one, which allowed us to make one longer.
Yes.
There you go.
And then we set our next meeting date for July 25th. Any questions?
If I would say policy committee members, and we'll have another meeting before there's a second reading for these, but on Rule 871, where we were talking about procedure for handling complaints, just had made some changes there. And so just when you have time, please look at that and we can discuss it at the next meeting as
You
well.
made those changes
Yeah.
that we had talked about? Okay.
Yeah. So just want to make sure that captures it. And, but again, we'll have one more meeting to talk before these come for a second reading.
All right. Any other questions, comments? All right, this is a first reading, so they will be coming back to us in our first meeting in August, since we will not be having any action items on our agenda for the second meeting here in July. So that was our policy update. Next, we have information on our agenda for the WASB resolutions that were adopted by the Delegate Assembly from 2023. So those are the items that after the Delegate Assembly down at the convention took place, those were the ones that we got through because that was such a long night. If you remember the report on how we got delayed a number of times on amendments, but those are the current in that packet that was attached to their board packet. Those are the resolutions that are in place guiding WASB and the people that work with our politicians in Madison. So if you have any questions on those, seeing none.
Do you have any favorite ones you'd like to bring to our attention?
Not anything that, there's been the ones that more recently have been passed are had some pretty good discussion on to get us there. And I think overall the process has worked pretty well. The one drawback is like anything in Madison or at the WASB convention, the northern districts are harder to have our voice heard sometimes because the big schools have the more populated areas have more people that are pulling together with themselves. And so we got to always remind each other when we're down there that the small schools, the northern schools have to kind of stick together because otherwise it's tough. But any other questions? All right. WSB policy correspondent update.
Okay, well, this is the last capital chat about the budget. And it was an exciting one because the governor finally signed the budget into law. It became 2023 Wisconsin Act 19. 51 partial vetoes, total of $99 billion, which is chump change for California, but that's actually over twice as large as their deficit. Key points here before we get to the school stuff. It increases shared revenue to local governments. Gave the city and county of Milwaukee the ability to increase their sales tax to avoid bankruptcy. They have to gain the approval of 2/3 of their county, city council and county board. And because of that compromise, there was a large increase in reimbursements to voucher schools, and they actually got the two Milwaukee Democratic representatives in both the Assembly and the Senate to vote for those. So that was strangely enough bipartisan. There's expanding affordable housing. I think Dave up here is, that's an interest of his. And he played a role in that. The governor vetoed all the tax cuts for anyone making more than $35,000 a year. So there won't be many tax cuts. That keeps $2 billion in the budget for now. The amount of money to schools was over $1 billion. I think that was about 1.2 as I recall. The $97 million for this year, it's one time, it's not necessarily recurring for SPED. $30 million this year for school-based mental health. $50 million is there for early literacy, but the actual legislation is still pending. It wasn't part of the budget actually. And then $325 increases per pupil per year for the next 4 centuries. By crossing out various numbers and 2023 to 2024, crossing out various numbers, he made it through 2435. It's kind of like Bert probably does with his fishing tournaments, that sort of thing. But that sort of thing has been done before. It's just nuts. And the increase in low revenue ceiling has been clarified a little bit, and I don't quite understand it. I wasn't going to rerun the tape to try to figure it out. But the schools can sort of take a combination of the $325 increase also to get to 11,000 if they're below 11,000 per student. There's some money in there to hold property tax payers harmless for whatever property tax increases there are. Because of that, just a comment that even though SPED funding was allegedly going to be paid for 2/3 by state funds years ago, we've never been close to that. We're now at about 33% after what they passed this year. That was only about like a 5 to 6% increase from last year, but there's been about a 33% increase since 2018 for SPED funding. At least I don't know if we've noticed that or not, or.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit?
Yeah.
And then I guess the last thing that they mentioned was to try to be positive with legislators, thank them for what you got, because these guys commented that they always get comments from all the legislators that basically are, what difference does it make? Because whatever we do, it's everybody wanted more and they're negative about it. Say that don't be negative about it. Just have good manners and be thankful for what you get and work for the next step. So that's it. There'll be some Wednesday legislative updates too. So if you're not sick of me and I have permission, I'd like to do some updates on those too. So.
Okay, perfect. All right, upcoming meeting schedule coming up July 14th and 15th. There is a Summer Leadership Institute over in Green Bay. If you can attend that, please let Colleen know so she can get you signed up for that and get everything registered. And that is the only thing we've got for upcoming meeting schedule. The district administrator comments.
All right. With that, yeah, I can share that. That's. Okay. Okay. Got it. So summer school is the big event starting next week. And so for students up through 8th grade, the last 2 weeks in July and then the first 2 weeks in August are 2 separate sessions of summer school. I know the signups for that were very strong earlier in the summer. And so expecting, I'm going to guess, well over 700 students signed up for those weeks of summer school. And that'll be great. And it will be held primarily at Tainer Elementary School, but then we have students going all over for other pieces and at the middle school as well. And so that will work well. And then it's not directly a school district activity, but within a couple of weeks, we'll have the Barron County Fair. If you happen to be there, there's going to be a lot of students from all surrounding Rice Lake and other districts there. I would encourage anybody, ask the students about their projects, talk to them, ask them questions. It's good for them to do that. It's a good experience for them and just another learning opportunity for them. So that's all I've got. Oh, and then Marcia did find in terms of adopting standards, it just says annually prior to the beginning of the school term, notify parents and guardians of the academic standards. And so, included as an item agenda on the first school board meeting of the year, which probably July 1 is that, but doesn't say we have to adopt them. And so I think we're fine. And yep, we'll do that in early August.
All right, thank you for that. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. We are adjourned. Thank you.